We have one small intestine, we have one superior mesenteric artery. Okay? So it's something that students tend to forget about, but not every vessel. So far, every vessel we've been talking about has been paired, except for the aorta and brachiocephalic trunk. So we have both single and paired structures. The internal thoracic artery, I said, supplies blood to the top of the diaphragm. We didn't follow it down that far, but we are going to look at blood that's supplied to the bottom of the diaphragm. And you're familiar with our word for diaphragm because of the nerve that supplies it. Anybody remember from Bio430 what nerve innervates the diaphragm? It goes with the saying, C3, 4, and 5 keep the diaphragm alive, but what's the name of the nerve?
What letters does it start with?
Phrenic. Okay. So, phrenic arteries are going to supply the diaphragm with oxygenated blood from the inferior aspect way up high under the diaphragm. We see inferior phrenic arteries. And on the models, you can see them actually on the surface of the diaphragm muscle. Now, I don't know when you took autonomic nervous system last semester if you talked about the greater splanchnic nerves. Those are parasympathetic nerves descending along the side of the vertebral body. And they meet in a prevertebral plexus in the abdomen and synapse with postganglionic neurons. Those of you that had me, we talked about the celiac ganglia. And that's the paired ganglia on either side of the blood vessel known as the celiac trunk. That's our next blood vessel. And the postganglionic neurons, the abdominal viscera, follow the blood vessel branches off of the aorta out to the organs. And vagus nerve will travel along with them. Okay? So in a regional anatomy, we would be looking at the arteries and the nerves and all these at the same time because they all affect the same organs. I'm trying to tie that back together with what we covered in Bio430. So the celiac trunk, number 32, is a short vessel about 3/4 of an inch to an inch long that has 3 branches. Right? It supplies 3 organs: the stomach, the spleen, and the liver. So you'll know where to find these blood vessels if you know where the organs are located. The spleen is tucked up high on the right side. Actually, I think my green will come through better. It's tucked up high on the left side of the diaphragm. The liver is a very large organ on the right side for the liver, left side for the spleen. And the stomach is primarily on the left side. I'm not going to draw that in because it just makes things confusing. But if we look at branches of our celiac trunk, then I'll come back and put the numbers on the middle. The first branch to come off forms a circular pattern because it runs along the inside of the curvature of the stomach. So just to explain briefly, the stomach is shaped like this. And so the left gastric artery comes off the celiac trunk and does this. Okay, so we see that curvature. The next branch goes behind the stomach and goes over to the spleen. And the third branch goes to the liver. The celiac trunk is number 32. Left gastric is 33. Now, normally I say you don't need to worry about left and right. When we get to it towards the end of this semester, we'll come back and look at more branches of the digestive system. Right gastric is going to come around and meet the left gastric, and it comes off of a hepatic artery. So they have distinctive, they come off of different arteries. They have different origins. All right? So left gastric is a component of the name for number 33 that I want you to learn. 34 is splenic. The name for the organ it's going to. And I think on the list it says hepatic proper. That's after the right gastric comes off. Right now, we can learn this as common hepatic, or you can just call it hepatic artery. Okay. So celiac trunk, and then these three branches coming out, named for the organs to which they are carrying the oxygenated blood. Okay, the next artery comes off. It's hard to find in the cadaver because it's coming off behind the stomach. And it comes off behind the stomach and comes out under the stomach and then over the small intestine. It travels between the peritoneum, so in the mesentery. It's a very long blood vessel. It's supplying the almost 21 feet of the small intestine, as well as the ascending colon and descending colon. So when we're done with these vessels to the organs, I'll show you some ascending transverse colon. So when we're done with these vessels, I'll show you some diagrams that will help. It's easier to see the organs. But until we get to that point, if you're not familiar with the large intestine, we have the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, and then rectum and anus. Okay? So we have two mesenterics, a superior mesenteric and an inferior mesenteric. The superior mesenteric is going to go to the right, give off branches to the small intestine, which I've left out of my diagram, and give off branches that go to the ascending colon and go to the transverse colon. You can see why it goes to the right. These are called right colic and middle colic, but we're not going to worry about those names. All right? But I just want you to see why the superior mesenteric artery is diagrammed to the right. Because ascending colon starts on the right-hand side. And so this is going to be number 36. Then we have the kidneys. And sitting on top of each kidney we have the suprarenal or adrenal glands. Blood flows through the kidneys multiple times a day. So you form about 1.8 liters of urine a day. You excrete it, but you actually form 180. So obviously we don't have that much blood in the body, so you have to recycle that over and over and over. Flow it through. So the blood supply to the kidneys is quite large. The vessels are about the diameter of my thumb. These would be the renal arteries. The right one is slightly lower because of the liver. Well, while I was taking my graduate course in anatomy for my doctoral program, it was with the medical students. And at Davis, each cadaver was worked on by 4 medical students, and the 4 of us graduate students had our own cadaver. And we were dissecting the abdominal cavity, and we got to the renal artery, and it was very crunchy. It's very stiff and not pliable, and when you pinched it between your fingers, it crackled like eggshells. So we were trying to guess what was going on, and I said, I just made up the term. I'd never heard, I just said, oh, it's probably a calcified aneurysm. And we went on from there to ectopic pregnancies and different things, and we had a surgeon, a couple of surgeons working with us that day, and so we called him over and we said, what's going on with the renal artery here? And he looked at it and he examined it and he said, oh, that's a calcified aneurysm. My standing in the graduate group was set from then on. I had just made up the term because it was hard and crunchy and I didn't even know such a thing existed. But it is a very large vessel, and because of the amount of blood flow that has to go through. Now,